Good morning, class. Today we will continue the chapter from the beginning of time. Students, we will start a new topic that is about the tribe Hadza. They were hunters and gatherers. Okay, so here James Woodburn, an anthropologist, he wrote in 1960 about this Hadza group of hunters and gatherers. So they live in the vicinities of the lake Eyasi, a salt rift valley. So you can see the country of the eastern Hadza dry rocky savanna dominated by thorn scrubs and acacia tree. So this region it was rich in wild foods, and when we talk about the animals, they were exceptionally numerous. Elephants, rhinoceros, buffalo, giraffe, zebra, waterbug, gazelle, warthog, baboons, many others. So all these animals apart from the elephants, they were hunted and eaten by the Hadza. And when we talk about the vegetable foods, roots, berries, okay, the fruits of the baobab tree, though not often obvious to the casual observer, is always abundant even at the height of the dry seasons. So you can see the honey and grubs of the seven species of wild bees. They are eaten, and sources of water are widely distributed over the country in the wet season from the dry season. So the Hadza, they considered that about 5 to 6 kilometers is the maximum distance over which the water can reasonably carried, and camps are normally sited within a kilometer of a water course. So camps, they are commonly small and widely dispersed in the wet seasons. Large had concentrated near the few available sources of water in the dry season. So there is never any shortage of food even in the time of drought. So students, you can see the Hadza tribes, they are a modern hunter-gatherer people. They are living in northern Tanzania. So they are considered one of the large hunter-gatherer tribes in Africa with approximately 1300 tribes members. So their native homeland includes the Eyasi Valley and nearby hills. So the Hadza, it remained an important study focus for anthropologists as they represent a modern links to the way of human existence and survival largely abandoned by most of humanities. So as a hunter and gatherer society, the Hadza, they have no domesticated livestock, nor do they grow or store their own food. The Hadza, they survive by hunting their food and handmade bows and arrows for searching for edible plants. So the Hadza diet is primarily plant-based, but also consists of meat, fat and honey as we see here. So they create temporary shelters of dried grass and branches, and they own few possessions. So over the 50 years, however, the tribe they have lost 90% of its land, and in some areas you can see the Hadza are living in poverty on land stolen from them by their agricultural and pastoral neighbors in a situation where there has been discrimination against them, say anthropologist James Woodburn, who has worked with the Hadza for decades. Okay, so they have lived on the land for millennia, yet for years they have been treated as the lowest in the society. Hunter-gatherer societies, the present and the past societies. So here you will see the scholars, they attempt to know whether the information about the present living hunters and gatherers, it could be used to understand the past societies. Students, here you can see that here two ideologies are there. One, they believe in ethnographics. Another scholar, they opposed ethnographics. Okay, so when we talk about ethnography, okay, it is the study of the contemporary ethnic groups. It includes the examinations of their modes of livelihood, technology, gender, roles, ritual, political institution and social customs. So students, some scholars, they have directly used the specific data from present day hunter-gatherer society so that they could interpret the archaeological remains of the past. Some archaeologists are of the view that are the hominids, okay, sites along with the margins of the Lake Turkana, it dated 2 million years ago, were probably dry season camp of early human, because such a practice has been observed among the Hadza and the Kungsan hunter-gatherers. But on the other side, you will find that these scholars, they suggest that this ethnographic data, okay, it cannot be used to understand the past society. As you can see, these two are totally different. As knowing the past from the present tribe, okay, getting information from the tribes of today. So you will see present day hunters and gatherers societies, they are engaged in several other economic activities along with hunting and food gathering. So they are involved in trading also, trade in minor food product or produce, or working as a paid laborer in the field. So moreover, these societies, they are totally marginalized in sense, you can in every sense, as it is geographical, political and economic or social. So the condition in which the hunter and the gatherers, okay, they live today, it's quite different from those who lives in the early time period. So the problem here is further complicated due to the tremendous variation amongst the living hunter-gathering societies. So whatever the data on many issues such as the relative importance of the hunting gathering, group size or the movement from place to place, they are conflicting. So there is no consensus regarding the division of labor in procuring the food also. Today you can see generally the women, okay, they gather food and make tools. Perhaps this factor it ensure a relatively equal role for both men and women in the present day hunters and gathering societies, but it is difficult to make any such conclusion about the past societies. Developments between 10,000 BCE and 4,500 BCE in early human life. So here students, you can see some of the points. It shows the development during this time period, and this development it brings changes in the lives of the people. So for several millions years, humans lived by hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants. Then between 10,000 and 4,500 years ago, people in different parts of the world, they learned to domesticate certain plants and animals. This led to the development of farming and pastoralism as a way of life. So the shift from hunting to farming, it was a major turning point in the human history. So with the introduction of agriculture, more people, they began to stay in one place for even longer period than they had done before. So permanent houses began to build of mud bricks and even stones. So there are some of the earliest villages known to archaeologists. So farming and pastoralism, it led to the introduction of you can see introduction of many other changes such as making of pots in which to store grains and other produce and to cook food. Besides new kinds of stone tools, they also came into use. Some new tools such as the wooden plow were used in agriculture. Gradually, the people they became familiar with the metals such as copper and tin. So the wheel, important for both pot making and transportations, it came into use. About 5,000 years ago, even you can see larger concentrations of people, they began to live together in cities. So students, in spite of their increased control over the necessities of life and their technical progress over the old stone culture, the men of Neolithic age were far from having attained a condition of civilization. So the early men still lacked ability to utilize adequately the resource of nature, and they were ignorant of the art of writing, which is essential to be a civilized society. So it is true that they were no longer savages, but they would still be called as barbarians.